This chart shows what looks like the end of the AI boom. The widespread public perception is that the supercycle is stalling out, benchmarks are saturated, and the hype is dead. I am here to decode the underlying data of these technological cycles, looking past the noise to show you what is actually happening beneath the surface. If you only look at consumer metrics, the panic seems completely justified. Monthly active users for major chatbots cooled off throughout 2023. Admin are seeing far fewer flashy, novel consumer demos. But that public sentiment contradicts a massive physical reality. Hyperscalers are currently executing a $650 billion infrastructure build-out. This current phase represents a predictable, measurable consolidation period found in every major tech cycle. When the surface-level novelty fades, it means the ecosystem has stopped chasing hype and started the difficult work of actual real-world deployment. To understand what calm looks like in a platform shift, we can look at the mobile app economy in 2008. During that early mobile gold rush, the market rewarded cheap experiments. Developers built highly visible, trivial apps that monetized quickly in a new distribution channel. Eventually, that dynamic breaks down. The market stops paying for the smartest or loudest demo, and instead starts demanding the cheapest, reliable throughput. For any technology to embed itself deeply into the economy, it has to transition away from being a consumer spectacle and become invisible enterprise plumbing. The AI industry is making that exact transition right now. The ecosystem is actively consolidating around boring, dependable primitives like routing, caching, and data pipelines. Platform ecosystems do their hardest systems engineering work when mainstream attention is at its absolute lowest. They are building the infrastructure that will later feel entirely inevitable. This diagram illustrates the AI cycle's predictable wave architecture, a repeating four-step algorithm. First, a headline capability jump triggers massive consumer adoption and hype. Then, a cooling period, where builders optimize systems and enterprises seek ROI. Finally, an architectural leap restarts the loop. This cycle is accelerating. We saw exactly how fast the loop can spin in late 2025, when several frontier labs pushed major model updates almost simultaneously. Between November 12th and November 24th of 2025 alone, OpenAI launched GPT 5.1, xAI released Grok 4.1, Google shipped Gemini 3, and Anthropic dropped Claude Opus 4.5. Because the frontier is entirely multipolar, no single company can act as a durable kingmaker. The moment one lab pulls ahead, three others immediately release a countermodel, forcing the entire cycle to compress. Predicting the next major leap in AI does not require magic. It requires looking at data to determine exactly where the market sits inside this four-step loop. When top-tier models become virtually indistinguishable on public preference leaderboards, labs stop competing strictly on intelligence. Instead, engineering effort violently shifts toward operational efficiency. This chart tracks the pricing of inference over a 2-year period. According to the Stanford AI Index, the cost to query a GPT 3.5 level model dropped by a factor of 280. In parallel, parameter efficiency skyrocketed. Reaching a 60% score on the MMLU once required a sprawling 540 billion parameter model. Today, that exact same performance shrinks down into a hyperdense 3.8 billion parameter system. Running these highly optimized, hyper-efficient models against those old legacy benchmarks is like measuring a modern smartphone by how well it works as a rotary dialer. It completely misses the point of the engineering progress. The perceived plateau in raw intelligence is an illusion. You are actually looking at an aggressive, mathematically necessary phase of distillation and inference optimization. This optimization phase has created a massive contradiction in the labor market. We are seeing widespread organizational adoption of AI tools, completely paired with rising developer frustration and dropping satisfaction. Stack Overflow survey data shows trust metrics dropping straight into the red as developers explicitly distrust AI accuracy. Yet simultaneously, GitHub data reveals a staggering surge in actual building, with developers executing nearly 1 billion code pushes to AI projects in 2025 alone. The friction comes from the workflow. AI generation is now default for writing code, but the output is frequently almost right, but not quite. Debugging those edge cases now dominates real-world engineering time. This is the definitive hallmark of a consolidation period. The era of building naive wrappers around an API is over, and the brutal work of actual systems integration has begun. Builders do not abandon the ecosystem during the calm phases. They simply transition from chasing empty hype to engineering actual production guardrails. All of that software integration requires an immense physical supply layer to run it. And the data from that hardware layer tells a completely different story than the consumer metrics. Analysts forecast that combined hyperscaler capital expenditures will reach approximately $650 billion in 2026 alone. That historic infrastructure spend is being driven almost entirely by 4 companies: Amazon, Google, Meta, and Microsoft. A massive percentage of that capital flows directly through NVIDIA, whose data center revenue violently surged as they supply the required physical processing chips. There is a massive disconnect from the surface-level narrative. Consumer apps may feel slow or repetitive, but beneath that, data centers and power grids are scaling at an industrial pace. You do not commit $650 billion to pour concrete and buy server racks if a technology is dead. That capital expenditure is the ultimate leading indicator that the next storm is already being funded. That raw hardware capacity is actively being structured into new software primitives right now. Agentic AI is no longer a marketing buzzword. It is maturing into a shared, standardized layer of open infrastructure. The Linux Foundation launched the Agentic AI Foundation to standardize this layer, utilizing protocols like MCP. MCP is an open standard that allows AI models to securely connect to external data sources and tools, establishing baseline interoperability. Beyond agents, capital is flowing heavily into world models. Startups led by researchers like Fei-Fei Li have raised billions of dollars to build spatial intelligence, allowing AI systems to understand and simulate 3D environments. This software progress perfectly aligns with a deliberate push from hardware executives like NVIDIA's Jensen Huang, who are openly predicting that physical robotics is nearing its own breakout milestone of mass-market utility. When you combine standardized agents, spatial world models, and massive hardware pipelines, they naturally converge. The industry is actively assembling systems capable of planning, simulating outcomes, and executing physical actions in the real world. The timeline for deploying these systems is not strictly driven by engineering. The synchronizing forcing function for this next wave is global regulation. In August 2026, the majority of the European Union's AI Act comes into force. Simultaneously, fragmented transparency laws in California establish strict legal constraints on exactly how these products can be built and deployed. That heavy compliance load forces the market to consolidate. Power naturally shifts away from small experimental teams and toward massive organizations that can afford to manage complex legal and technical integration. This hardened software stack is violently reshaping the labor market. As the focus moves to compliance and stability, the demand for junior exploratory demo builders has sharply died off. The market now overwhelmingly values senior model operators. Companies are aggressively hiring engineers who actually understand deployment ergonomics, caching, and secure data pipelines. These quiet phases serve as the essential intervals where the core infrastructure compiles. If you wait for the next hype cycle to start building, you are already too late.